In 2012, Gregory Erickson at Florida State University clamped a force transducer between the jaws of a 4.59-meter saltwater crocodile and recorded 689 pounds per square inch, the highest bite force ever measured in a living animal, enough to crush a sea turtle's shell the way you would crack an egg. These are 10 animals that could still defeat it. Number 10. The slow squeeze. In the flooded grasslands of Venezuela's Llanos, where seasonal rains transform dry savanna into a maze of shallow waterways stretching to the horizon, the green anaconda has perfected a killing method that requires no teeth, no venom, and no speed. It requires patience and geometry. The green anaconda Eunectes murinus holds the title of the heaviest snake on the planet. Adult females regularly exceed 5 meters in length and weigh over 200 kilograms, roughly the weight of 3 adult men standing on the same bathroom scale. Males are significantly smaller. But a large female anaconda in a South American floodplain is, pound for pound, one of the most formidable ambush predators alive. In 2015, herpetologist Scott Boback at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, published a study in the Journal of Experimental Biology that fundamentally changed the scientific understanding of how constriction kills. For decades, the prevailing theory held that constrictors suffocated their prey by preventing lung expansion. Boback's team attached pressure sensors and heart monitors to anesthetized rats and allowed boa constrictors, close relatives of the anaconda, to coil around them. What the data revealed was that the snakes were not primarily targeting the lungs, they were targeting the circulatory system. Within seconds of coiling, blood pressure in the prey dropped to near zero. The heart, deprived of venous return, had nothing to pump. Circulatory arrest occurred in under 6 seconds. The prey was not being suffocated, it was being switched off, like unplugging a machine. For a green anaconda targeting a caiman, the South American relative of the saltwater crocodile, the strategy follows a predictable sequence. The snake strikes from underwater, usually targeting the head or neck. It wraps its body in concentric coils around the prey's torso. Then it begins to squeeze. Each time the prey exhales, the coils tighten. There is no room to inhale again. The circulatory pressure drops. The heart stops. The entire process, from first strike to total circulatory arrest, can take less than a minute with smaller prey. With a large caiman, it takes longer. But the outcome is the same. The detail that changes this calculation entirely is that the anaconda does not need to overpower the crocodilian in a direct contest of strength. It needs to land the first coil. Once the initial wrap locks around the crocodile's body, the mechanics of constriction are almost impossible to reverse. A saltwater crocodile's bite is devastating, but its jaws are designed to close with enormous force, not to open against resistance. The muscles that open a crocodile's mouth are surprisingly weak. A grown adult could hold a large crocodile's jaws shut with their bare hands. This means that once an anaconda's coils pin the jaws closed, the crocodile's greatest weapon is neutralized entirely. The snake does not need to match the crocodile's bite force. It simply needs to prevent the crocodile from using it. In the Llanos and the flooded forests of the Amazon basin, green anacondas prey on spectacled caimans, weighing up to 60 kilograms as a routine part of their diet. Spectacled caimans are considerably smaller than saltwater crocodiles. But here's where the scale becomes relevant. The largest green anaconda specimens on record approach 250 kilograms and measure close to 6 meters. A young adult saltwater crocodile of similar length would weigh roughly the same. The matchup is not absurd. It is a genuine contest between two apex predators evolved for the same theater of war, and that theater is murky, shallow water, where visibility is measured in centimeters and the first strike determines everything. Imagine standing ankle-deep in warm brown water, unable to see the bottom, knowing that somewhere beneath the surface an animal with 40,000 individual muscle units coiled along 5 meters of body is waiting for something warm-blooded to step within range. That is the world where the anaconda operates, and the crocodile, for all its armor and all its bite force, enters that world at its own risk. Before we continue, if you want the full system behind how we research and build these deep dives, I put everything into an ebook. The link is in the description. Now the anaconda wins through constriction and patience. The next animal on this list uses something far more surgical. Number 9. The temple shot. In the flooded marshlands of Brazil's Pantanal, the largest tropical wetland on Earth, spanning an area roughly the size of the state of Washington, a predator has developed a killing technique so specialized that it has no equivalent among any other large cat on the planet. The jaguar, Panthera onca, is not the largest of the big cats. It ranks third behind the tiger and the lion. An adult male jaguar in the Pantanal weighs between 100 and 120 kilograms, roughly the weight of a large refrigerator. Placed next to a 4.5-meter saltwater crocodile, weighing 450 kilograms, the size difference looks insurmountable. The crocodile outweighs the jaguar by a factor of nearly 4 to 1. By most calculations, the cat should lose badly. But the jaguar does not fight the way other big cats fight. In 2010, a team of comparative anatomists led by Stephen Rowe at the University of New South Wales in Sydney published a study in the journal PLOS One that used finite element analysis, the same modeling technique engineers use to stress test bridges and aircraft, to compare the skull mechanics of the big cats. What Rowe's team found was that the jaguar possesses the highest bite force quotient of any felid, meaning it bites harder relative to its body size than any other cat on Earth. The raw bite force was measured at approximately 500 pounds per square inch, less than half the saltwater crocodiles. But the way the jaguar delivers that force is what makes it lethal. Lions and tigers kill by clamping down on the throat and suffocating prey. Leopards target the nape. The jaguar does something entirely different. It bites directly through the temporal bones of the skull. The canine teeth of the jaguar are proportionally thicker and shorter than those of any other big cat, designed not for slashing or gripping, but for puncturing bone. The bite lands between the ears, pierces the cranium, and damages the brain directly. The prey does not suffocate, it does not bleed out. The nervous system shuts down almost instantly. This technique is deployed routinely against crocodilians. In the Pantanal, jaguars prey on Y.A. caimans as a staple food source. Field biologists working in the region have documented dozens of successful kills between 2001 and 2010 alone. The jaguar approaches from the bank, enters the water if necessary, strikes the caiman from behind, and delivers the temple bite before the crocodilian can rotate into a defensive position. The attack is explosive and typically lasts under 10 seconds from contact to kill. What makes this particular predator so dangerous to crocodilians is not its size or its raw strength, it is the targeting. A saltwater crocodile's skull is heavily armored with osteoderms, the bony plates embedded beneath the skin that function as biological plating. But the temporal region behind the eyes is thinner. The bone there is less reinforced, and the brain sits closer to the surface. The jaguar's entire killing strategy is built around finding and exploiting that exact vulnerability. It does not need to overpower the crocodile. It needs to land one bite in the right place. Against a full-grown saltwater crocodile, measuring 5 or 6 meters, the size difference would be extreme. A croc that size outweighs any jaguar by a ratio that makes the encounter genuinely dangerous for the cat. But against juvenile or subadult saltwater crocodiles in the 2 to 3 meter range, which still outweigh the jaguar, the cat's technique is not theoretical. It is the same attack that kills hundreds of caimans every year in the Pantanal, delivered by an animal whose skull evolved specifically for this purpose. The jaguar hunts alone, relying on stealth and a single devastating strike. The next entry on this list takes the opposite approach entirely. Number 8. The black wall. In 2004, a tourist at Kruger National Park in South Africa filmed an encounter at a river crossing that would eventually be viewed over 100 million times online. The footage, which became known as the Battle at Kruger, captured a herd of Cape buffalo defending a calf that had been seized simultaneously by a pride of lions and a Nile crocodile. The buffalo herd, which had initially scattered in panic, turned around, charged back to the water's edge, and physically overwhelmed both the lions and the crocodile through sheer numbers and coordinated aggression. The calf survived. The Cape buffalo, Syncerus caffer, is one of the most dangerous large animals in Africa. Adult bulls stand up to 1.7 meters at the shoulder and weigh between 700 and 900 kilograms, roughly the weight of a small car. Their horns fuse at the base into a structure called a boss, a plate of solid bone up to 12 centimeters thick that sits across the top of the skull like a natural helmet. The tips curve outward and then upward, forming hooks capable of goring and launching a full-grown predator into the air. But the Cape buffalo's real advantage against a saltwater crocodile is not any individual animal strength, it is the herd. Behavioral researchers studying cooperative defense in African ungulates have consistently documented that Cape buffalo exhibit a level of coordinated mob behavior that is rare among herbivores. When a member of the herd is attacked, the surrounding buffalo do not simply scatter. They turn back. They charge the attacker from multiple directions. They form a semicircular wall of horns in mass, and they press inward until the predator is either driven off or trampled. The behavior has been observed against lions, spotted hyenas, and Nile crocodiles across eastern and southern Africa. The part that surprises field biologists is how quickly the buffalo transition from prey to aggressor. A single buffalo, separated from its herd and caught in deep water, would almost certainly lose to a large saltwater crocodile. The water is the crocodile's domain, and the death roll, the spinning maneuver the crocodile uses to tear flesh and drown prey, requires only that the crocodile maintain its grip for 30 seconds to a minute. But in shallow water where the buffalo can plant its feet, the equation reverses. A 900-kilogram bull that finds its footing can generate enough upward force through its horns to toss a 300-kilogram crocodile clear of the water. The horn concentrates the impact into a surface area smaller than a human palm. The force per unit area is immense. Wildlife footage from Kruger's Lower Sabi region captured in 2019 shows a lone buffalo bull repeatedly goring a Nile crocodile that had attempted to seize it during a river crossing. The crocodile's osteoderm armor, those bony plates that protect against teeth and claws, provided limited defense against a pointed horn driven by 900 kilograms of charging herbivore. The horn does not spread force across a surface the way a bite does. It focuses everything into a point. And the neck muscles powering the upward thrust are some of the strongest in the animal kingdom relative to body size. Now imagine that scenario with 6 or 8 buffalo instead of 1. The crocodile grabs a leg, the herd turns. 8 animals weighing a combined 6,000 kilograms converge on a single point. The horns come from every direction. The crocodile cannot release its grip fast enough. If you have ever wondered whether a grass-eating herd animal could defeat the most powerful reptile on the planet, the answer from the river crossings of southern Africa is yes, provided it is angry enough and does not have to fight alone. Which of these animals do you think you would least want to encounter at a river crossing? Drop it in the comments. The buffalo wins through mass and numbers. The next animal wins through something the saltwater crocodile has never evolved a defense against: coordinated tactical intelligence. Number 7. The numbers game. A single adult male lion, Panthera leo, weighs between 190 and 250 kilograms. It carries a bite force of approximately 650 pounds per square inch, less than a fifth of the saltwater crocodile's. Its claws, while razor-sharp, cannot penetrate the bony osteoderm armor that covers the crocodile's back and flanks. In a one-on-one encounter in the water, the lion loses. This is not debatable. The crocodile's aquatic speed, its death roll, and its ability to drag prey beneath the surface give it an overwhelming advantage against any single cat. But lions do not fight alone. Craig Packer, one of the foremost lion researchers in the world, spent over 40 years studying lion social behavior in Tanzania's Serengeti. His work at the University of Minnesota's Lion Research Center documented in extraordinary detail how prides coordinate attacks against prey that no individual lion could bring down. The key finding was that lion cooperative hunting is not chaotic. It is positional. Individual lionesses adopt specific roles. Some act as flankers, driving the prey toward a predetermined point. Others wait in ambush at the predicted escape route. And these roles are not assigned randomly. They are learned, practiced, and adjusted based on the outcomes of previous hunts over years of shared experience. When a lion pride encounters a crocodile on land, and this happens regularly along the rivers and waterholes of sub-Saharan Africa, the dynamics are fundamentally different from a waterborne encounter. A Nile crocodile hauled out on a riverbank is slow. Its top speed over land is approximately 12 to 14 kilometers per hour, and only in short explosive bursts that exhaust the animal almost immediately. A lioness can sustain 50 kilometers per hour, The crocodile cannot turn quickly on land. Its body is optimized for aquatic maneuverability, not terrestrial agility. And, critically, it cannot defend against attacks from multiple directions at the same time. Here is where the math shifts against the crocodile. 3 or 4 lionesses approaching from different angles force the crocodile into a defensive posture. It can face one threat at a time. It swings toward the nearest lion, jaws gaping, and the lion retreats half a step. While the crocodile's attention is fixed forward, a second lion attacks from the rear or the flank, raking claws across the base of the tail or the thinner skin of the hindquarters. The crocodile pivots again. A third attack comes from the original direction. This rotational harassment is not random aggression. It is a deliberate strategy that exploits the crocodile's single greatest metabolic weakness. Crocodilians are ambush predators with anaerobic energy systems. They generate enormous explosive force in short bursts, but they cannot sustain prolonged physical activity. Physiologist Roger Seymour, at the University of Adelaide, demonstrated that after intense exertion lasting only a few minutes, a crocodile's blood lactic acid levels spiked to concentrations that would incapacitate most mammals. Recovery from that metabolic crash takes hours, sometimes longer. A pride of lions can maintain rotational pressure for exactly as long as it takes to drain those anaerobic reserves. After that, the crocodile is functionally paralyzed. It can still bite if something enters its jaws, but it cannot chase, it cannot turn, it cannot reach the water. Film crews working in Botswana's Okavango Delta have captured multiple instances of lion prides killing Nile crocodiles on land using exactly this method. The pattern is consistent across every documented encounter. Coordinated approach from multiple angles. Rotational harassment. Metabolic exhaustion. Then the pride closes in on the tail and hindquarters. And in several cases, they flip the crocodile onto its back, which triggers a state of tonic immobility in many reptilian species, a temporary involuntary paralysis that effectively ends the contest. I mean, think about that for a second. The most feared predator in every river system it inhabits, an animal that has remained essentially unchanged for 200 million years, can be neutralized on land by 4 cats that weigh less than it does, simply because those 4 cats know how to take turns. A saltwater crocodile in the water is untouchable by lions. But a saltwater crocodile caught basking on a mudflat or a sandbar, surrounded by 4 experienced lionesses with no other prey in sight, is in very serious trouble. And the crocodile's own metabolism is the weapon that defeats it. The lion pride succeeds through tactics and endurance against a stationary opponent. The next entry on this list describes a predator that does not wait for the crocodile to come ashore. It walks into the crocodile's own territory and wins there. Number 6. The mangrove stalker. In the Sundarbans, the vast tidal mangrove forest that stretches across the delta of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers along the coast of Bangladesh and eastern India, 2 apex predators share the same waterlogged territory every single day: the Bengal tiger and the saltwater crocodile. This is the only place on Earth where a large population of tigers lives in direct, daily proximity to a large population of saltwater crocodiles. The mangrove channels that wind between the trees are narrow, brackish, and perpetually shifting with the tides. Tigers swim between islands to hunt chital deer and wild boar. Saltwater crocodiles patrol the same channels, sometimes resting on the same muddy banks. The encounters are not hypothetical. They are routine. And the tiger wins more often than it loses. Pranabesh Sanyal, who served as director of the Sundarban Tiger Reserve during the 1990s, documented multiple cases of Bengal tigers killing saltwater crocodiles along the muddy banks of the mangrove waterways. In the majority of documented instances, the tiger ambushed the crocodile from above, lunging from a raised bank or a tangle of mangrove roots onto the crocodile's back before it could slide into deeper water. The attack targets the base of the skull, just behind the cranium, where the spinal cord is closest to the surface. The tiger's canine teeth, each approximately 7.5 centimeters long, roughly the length of a man's index finger, are driven into the gap between the cranium and the first cervical vertebra. The bite severs or damages the spinal column. The crocodile's body goes limp almost immediately. The Bengal tiger is the second largest living cat. Adult males weigh between 220 and 260 kilograms, roughly the weight of a motorcycle and its rider combined. That mass, paired with a bite force that researchers have estimated at approximately 1.050 pounds per square inch, makes the Bengal tiger one of the very few land predators on Earth capable of penetrating the osteoderm armor along a crocodile's dorsal surface. The armor is not invincible. It is bone embedded in skin, and against the focused puncture of a large felid canine backed by 250 kilograms of muscle, it can be breached. What makes this confrontation so unnerving for the crocodile is that the tiger is not at a crippling disadvantage in the water the way a lion would be. Tigers are exceptional swimmers. They have been documented swimming 5 to 6 kilometers across open tidal channels in the Sundarbans without resting. Their broad paws generate significant propulsion, and some researchers have noted partial webbing between the toes of Sundarbans tigers, though this remains debated. Unlike most large cats, Bengal tigers show no hesitation whatsoever entering water. They pursue prey through chest-deep tidal channels and across flooded forest floors as an ordinary part of daily hunting. In 2011, a camera-trap survey conducted by the Wildlife Institute of India produced an image that circulated widely among field biologists. It showed a large male Bengal tiger dragging the carcass of a subadult saltwater crocodile approximately 2 meters in length along a muddy bank in the Sundarbans. The crocodile's neck showed clear puncture wounds consistent with a cervical bite. The tiger had killed it and was transporting it to a feeding site the same way it would carry a deer. This does not mean the tiger always wins. In deep water, the saltwater crocodile retains every advantage. The death roll, the capacity to drag prey beneath the surface, and the sheer bite force disparity make the crocodile dominant when it can fight on its own terms. But the Sundarbans is a world of constant transitions, where water meets land every few meters, and neither predator can claim permanent dominion over the other. On the mudflats, on the narrow banks between tidal pools, in the shallow channels where the tiger can stand and the crocodile cannot fully submerge, the Bengal tiger is the more dangerous animal. And the most telling detail is behavioral. In areas of the Sundarbans with high tiger density, saltwater crocodiles alter their basking patterns. They spend less time hauled out on exposed banks and more time submerged, sacrificing thermoregulation for safety. The crocodile, the apex predator of every other waterway it inhabits, modifies its own behavior in the presence of the tiger. That tells you everything you need to know about who owns the mangroves. If you are finding this useful, subscribe now. We cover deep dives like this every single week, and the next video in this series is already in production. The tiger is a solitary ambush hunter that wins through speed and anatomical targeting. The next animal on this list fights the saltwater crocodile, in a medium where the crocodile has always been assumed to be untouchable. Number 5. The cold equation. Saltwater crocodiles are not confined to rivers and estuaries. They are routinely observed in open ocean water, sometimes hundreds of kilometers from the nearest coastline. In 2010, researchers at the University of Queensland tagged 20 saltwater crocodiles in the estuaries of northern Australia and tracked them by satellite for over a year. The data showed that several individuals rode ocean currents for distances exceeding 400 kilometers, roughly the distance from New York City to Pittsburgh, essentially island hopping across the Coral Sea. Saltwater crocodiles have been sighted near Fiji, in Vanuatu, and in the open water between Indonesian islands. They are, functionally, marine animals. And in the open ocean they share territory with the great white shark. The great white, Carcharodon carcharias, is an animal built for a single devastating purpose, delivering maximum damage in one explosive strike from below. Great whites reach lengths of 6 meters and weights exceeding 200 kilograms, roughly twice the mass of the largest verified saltwater crocodiles. Their cruising speed in open water sits around 5 kilometers per hour, energy efficient and patient. Their attack speed, when breaching vertically from depth to strike a surface target, has been measured by researchers using high-speed cameras at approximately 40 kilometers per hour. In 2008, Stephen Rowe, the same biomechanist who analyzed jaguar skull mechanics, published a study modeling the bite force of the great white shark using CT scans and finite element analysis. The results, published in the Journal of Zoology, estimated maximum bite force at approximately 18,216 newtons for a 6.4-meter specimen. Converting that to comparable terms, the total closing force at the jaw exceeds 4,000 pounds. For comparison, the saltwater crocodile's maximum measured bite was approximately 16,414 newtons. The great white bites harder, and it delivers that force through rows of serrated, blade-like teeth, designed to slice through blubber, muscle, and bone in a single pass, not to grip and hold the way a crocodile's conical teeth do. The fact that genuinely reverses the predator equation is geometry. The great white attacks from below, targeting a zone that the saltwater crocodile cannot defend. A crocodile's armor, those bony osteoderms, covers the dorsal surface, the back, the flanks, and the top of the tail. The ventral surface, the belly, is relatively unprotected. In the open ocean, a great white rising from 20 meters of depth at 40 kilometers per hour would strike the underside of a swimming crocodile with enough force to cause massive internal trauma on the first impact alone, and the crocodile would never see it coming. Great whites hunt from below, silhouetting their prey against the light at the surface, approaching from the darkness beneath. By the time contact is made, the attack is already over, and there would be no death roll. The death roll requires an anchor point, something for the crocodile to brace against while it rotates its body. In deep ocean water, with no riverbed to push off from and no bank to grip, the crocodile's signature killing technique is physically impossible. It becomes a large reptile in an environment where its cold-blooded metabolism works against it. The ocean water around Australia's coastline sits between 18 and 25 degrees Celsius. A saltwater crocodile operating in that temperature range is metabolically sluggish compared to its peak performance in the warm, shallow estuaries it prefers. The great white, an endothermic fish with a specialized heat exchange system called the rete mirabile, maintains internal muscle temperature well above ambient water temperature. It is faster, warmer, and more agile in its home territory than the crocodile can ever be in that same water. Marine biologist Charlie Huveniers at Flinders University in Adelaide documented in 2018 that great whites in South Australia regularly pursue prey over distances of several hundred meters, correcting their trajectory mid-chase based on the target's evasive maneuvers. The hunting is not merely explosive, it is guided and persistent. The crocodile, by contrast, is an ambush predator that depends on a single lunge from concealment. In a sustained, open-water pursuit, the great white would close the gap repeatedly, and the crocodile would have no shallow bank to retreat to, no murky water to vanish into, no riverbed to anchor a death roll against. The next time you see footage of a saltwater crocodile gliding through open ocean, remember that somewhere below the thermocline, something with twice its mass and 4 times its burst speed may already be watching from beneath. In the river, the crocodile is king. In the open ocean, it is just another silhouette against the light, and the great white was built for exactly that silhouette. So far, every animal on this list has defeated the saltwater crocodile through specialization, whether that means constriction, precision bites, herd tactics, or ambush from a different medium. The next entry takes a different approach entirely. It does not need specialized techniques or pack coordination. Just mass so overwhelming that the crocodile's weapons become irrelevant. Number 4. The living battering ram. In the river systems and waterholes of southern and eastern Africa, rhinoceroses and crocodiles occasionally cross paths. The encounters are infrequent because rhinoceroses spend most of their time on dry grassland, visiting water only to drink and wallow. But when they do meet, the outcome is almost always the same. The white rhinoceros, Ceratotherium simum, is the second largest land animal after the elephant. Adult males weigh between 2,000 and 300 kilograms. To grasp that figure, imagine stacking 4 large saltwater crocodiles on top of each other. The rhinoceros outweighs them all. It stands 1.8 meters at the shoulder, roughly the height of a tall human. Its skin, composed of layers of densely cross-linked collagen fibers, measures between 2 and 5 centimeters thick across the flanks and shoulders, thicker than most ballistic-rated body armor. And its anterior horn, made of agglutinated keratin fibers, essentially compressed hair structured at the molecular level for maximum rigidity, can reach lengths of 1.5 meters and taper to a point capable of piercing a car door. This is where the contest stops being a contest. A saltwater crocodile's bite force of 689 pounds per square inch is devastating against flesh and unarmored bone. Against 2 to 5 centimeters of cross-linked collagen hide, the teeth struggle to achieve full penetration. The crocodile would need to clamp down on a limb or the softer tissue around the face, the only areas where the skin is thinner. But to reach those targets, the crocodile would need to close to striking distance of an animal that can accelerate from a standing position to over 40 kilometers per hour, roughly the speed of a car in a school zone, in a handful of strides. Research on rhinoceros charging dynamics published in the Journal of Zoology estimated that the impact force at the tip of the horn during a full charge exceeds 8,500 newtons, concentrated on a contact surface smaller than a human fist. That force, applied to a crocodile's ribcage, is more than sufficient to fracture the internal skeletal structure even through the dermal armor. The osteoderm plates that protect the crocodile from teeth and claws were never evolved to resist point loading from a 200-300 kilogram animal at full sprint. They are designed to distribute the clamping force of a rival crocodile's bite, a fundamentally different type of mechanical stress. A horn strike is not a bite. It is a spear, driven by a truck. Field reports archived by the Kruger National Park Veterinary Unit describe incidents of rhinoceroses encountering crocodiles at shallow water crossings and responding with immediate explosive aggression. The rhinoceros does not evaluate the situation. It does not hesitate. It charges. The horn strikes the body of the crocodile, with enough force to launch an animal weighing 300 kilograms laterally through the air. In several documented incidents, the crocodile was gored through the softer ventral skin and died of internal hemorrhaging. In others, the blunt impact alone caused fatal organ damage without ever breaking the skin. And the rhinoceros carries one additional advantage that is easy to overlook: temperament. White rhinoceroses are notoriously aggressive around perceived threats at water sources, and they do not distinguish between predators and annoyances. A crocodile approaching a rhinoceros at a waterhole is not registered as a dangerous adversary. It is registered as something that needs to move. The rhino's response is not strategic. It is reflexive, explosive, and repeated until whatever triggered it is gone or broken. If you are wondering whether the crocodile's armor provides any meaningful protection in this scenario, the answer is that it was designed for a completely different category of threat. It evolved to stop teeth. It did not evolve to stop a 1.5-meter horn backed by 200-300 kilograms, traveling at 40 kilometers per hour. The engineering analogy would be wearing a stab-proof vest to stop a car. A rhinoceros is devastating on land, but there is one land animal that makes even the rhinoceros look small. And for the saltwater crocodile, meeting that animal is not a fight. It is a miscalculation. Number 3. The weight of patience. In 2010, a tourist group at South Luangwa National Park in Zambia filmed an encounter that wildlife biologists still reference in discussions about interspecies dominance. A large bull African elephant was drinking at a shallow pool when a Nile crocodile, estimated at 3 to 4 meters in length, lunged from the murky water and clamped its jaws around the elephant's trunk. The elephant did not panic. It did not retreat. It planted its forelimbs, braced its body, and pulled backward, with enough force to lift the front half of the crocodile out of the water. Then it stepped forward and placed one foot on the crocodile's midsection. The crocodile released its grip. The elephant pressed down. The African elephant, Loxodonta africana, is the largest living land animal on Earth. Adult bulls routinely weigh between 5,000 and 6,000 kilograms, with exceptional individuals documented at nearly 7,000. To put that in perspective, a large saltwater crocodile weighs approximately 1,000 kilograms. The weight ratio is 6 to 1. In human terms, this is roughly equivalent to an adult person fighting a house cat. Caitlin O'Connell Rodwell at Stanford University spent over 20 years studying elephant behavior at Namibia's Etosha National Park. Her research, published across multiple journals including the Journal of the Acoustical Society of America and Behavior, documented that elephants are not passive giants. They are acutely aware of predatory threats, they communicate danger across distances of several kilometers, through infrasonic vocalizations that travel through the ground, and they respond to perceived threats with calculated, overwhelming physical force. The part that reduces the saltwater crocodile to an afterthought in this encounter is the elephant's foot. An elephant foot distributes the animal's weight across a surface area of roughly 200 square centimeters, about the size of a dinner platter. Even spread across that area, a 6,000-kilogram elephant standing on a single foot generates a ground pressure of approximately 50 kilograms per square centimeter, or about 700 pounds per square inch. That is more than enough to fracture the rib cage and rupture the internal organs of any crocodile species on Earth. The elephant does not need to bite. It does not need tusks, although each tusk can weigh over 50 kilograms and extend up to 2.5 meters, functioning as a pair of ivory spears mounted at shoulder height. The elephant simply needs to stand on the crocodile, and then the contest is over. And then there is the trunk. Anatomical research published in Current Biology in 2021 by a team at Humboldt University of Berlin revealed that the African elephant's trunk contains over 40,000 individual muscle fascicles, organized into a complex three-dimensional network that gives the trunk greater degrees of freedom than any robotic arm ever built. It can lift objects weighing over 300 kilograms. A saltwater crocodile that clamps its jaws onto an elephant's trunk has not captured a vulnerable appendage. It has grabbed a muscular limb strong enough to lift the crocodile clean off the ground and slam it against the nearest hard surface with the force of a wrecking ball. Of all the matchups on this list, this is the one where scale alone decides the outcome, and it raises a question worth sitting with. At what point does a difference in mass become so extreme that teeth, armor, and the strongest bite force ever measured simply stop mattering? The answer, based on every documented encounter between elephants and crocodiles across the African continent, is approximately 6-to-1. When one animal outweighs another by that ratio, weapons become decorative. The physics take over, and the physics do not negotiate. Multiple filmed encounters between elephants and crocodiles across Africa and Southeast Asia show the same result. The crocodile bites. The elephant responds with a trunk throw, a tusk strike, or a direct stomp. The crocodile does not get a second opportunity. In not a single documented case has a healthy adult elephant been killed by a crocodile of any species. The saltwater crocodile is larger than the Nile crocodile and possesses a stronger bite. But the outcome would be identical. You do not fight 6,000 kilograms. You do not fight it with teeth, with armor, or with 200 million years of evolutionary refinement. You simply lose. If the elephant wins through overwhelming mass on land, the next entry describes the animal that dominates every freshwater territory the crocodile has ever claimed in Africa. And this one is not patient at all. Number 2. The river tyrant. There is a widely repeated claim that the hippopotamus is the most dangerous large animal in Africa. The claim is not exaggerated. Estimates compiled by the World Health Organization and various national wildlife agencies place hippo-related human fatalities on the continent at approximately 500 per year. That number exceeds the combined fatalities attributed to lions, elephants, and crocodiles. The hippopotamus is not merely territorial. It is violently, reflexively, indiscriminately territorial. And the territory it claims encompasses the exact aquatic environment that crocodiles depend on for survival. The hippopotamus amphibius, is the third largest land animal on Earth. Adult males weigh between 501 to 800 kilograms, with exceptional bulls exceeding 2,000 kilograms, roughly the weight of a mid-size SUV. They stand 1.5 meters at the shoulder and measure up to 5 meters from nose to tail. Their skin is approximately 5 centimeters thick across the back and flanks, denser and more resistant to penetration than the hide of any other African megafauna except the rhinoceros. And their mouths open to a gape of approximately 150 degrees, wider than any other living land mammal, revealing lower canine teeth that grow continuously throughout the animal's life and can reach lengths of 50 centimeters, as long as a man's forearm. In 2004, Keith Eltringham at the University of Cambridge published what remains one of the most comprehensive studies of hippopotamus biology and behavior. Eltringham documented that hippo-territorial aggression in water is essentially indiscriminate. Male hippos do not assess threats selectively. Anything that enters their claimed section of river, whether another hippo, a fishing boat, or a crocodile, is met with immediate, explosive force. There is no escalation sequence. There is no warning display proportional to the size of the intruder. The response is binary. You are in the territory, or you are not. If you are in, the attack begins. What makes the hippopotamus the saltwater crocodile's most relentless natural rival is that the hippo does not merely defend against crocodile attacks. It actively attacks crocodiles that enter its domain without any provocation whatsoever. Footage from Kruger National Park, the Isimangaliso Wetland Park, and the Masai Mara National Reserve has captured hippos biting crocodiles, lifting them out of the water and shaking them with a lateral whipping motion that resembles a terrier shaking a rat. In several documented incidents, large bull hippos have bitten Nile crocodiles completely in half. And no, that is not an exaggeration. The bite force of the hippopotamus has been estimated at approximately 1,800 pounds per square inch. That is roughly half the saltwater crocodile's measured maximum. But the hippo delivers that force through a mouth that opens wide enough to engulf a large portion of a crocodile's body in a single closure. The lower canines, kept razor-sharp through constant grinding against the upper incisors in a self-honing mechanism, function as biological shears. They do not puncture the way a cat's teeth do. They cut. A single bite from a bull hippo landing across a crocodile's midsection can sever the spinal column and rupture the visceral organs in one motion. The width of the gape means the hippo does not need to target precisely, it just needs to close its mouth. There is a biomechanical detail that tilts this contest even further. The hippo's jaw closes with a snapping motion powered by the masseter and temporalis muscles, which together constitute one of the most massive muscular systems relative to skull size of any living mammal. The closing speed of the jaw is exceptionally fast. In a mutual biting contest between a hippo and a crocodile at close quarters, the hippo can land its bite first. And in a fight where one bite can end everything, first strike advantage is decisive. In the water, the hippo maintains dominance. Hippos do not swim in the traditional sense. They sink by controlling their specific gravity through exhalation, walk along the bottom of the river using their weight, and push off the riverbed to surface when they need to breathe. This means they operate in exactly the depth range where crocodiles are most lethal. The shallow to mid-depth water where a crocodile can anchor itself against the bottom to execute a death roll. But the death roll requires the crocodile to generate enough rotational torque to overpower the prey's resistance. A 1,800-kilogram hippo cannot be rolled by a 1,000-kilogram crocodile. The physics do not allow it. The crocodile clamps down, initiates the spin, and the hippo simply does not move. The crocodile's greatest weapon is neutralized by arithmetic. Rebecca Lewison at San Diego State University documented in her 2007 review of hippopotamus populations across sub-Saharan Africa that hippo-territorial behavior has been observed to completely exclude crocodiles from preferred river pools during periods of high hippo density. The crocodiles do not contest the space. They relocate to less favorable stretches of river, accepting worse hunting conditions, worse basking sites, and worse thermoregulation opportunities, rather than remain in a territory that a bull hippo has claimed. The crocodile, the animal with the strongest measured bite on Earth, voluntarily cedes its own habitat to the hippopotamus. Not occasionally, consistently, across every river system where their ranges overlap. The hippopotamus does not win through intelligence, through pack tactics, or through speed. It wins through territorial rage, armored mass, and a mouth wide enough to close around its opponent's entire body. Every advantage the crocodile possesses, its bite force, its death roll, its ambush speed, its armor, is either matched or neutralized by an animal that spends 16 hours a day submerged in the same water and attacks everything that enters without exception. Yet every animal discussed to this point shares one limitation. They each require specific conditions to defeat the saltwater crocodile. The anaconda needs to land the first coil in shallow water. The jaguar needs access to the skull's weak point. The buffalo needs its herd. The lion pride needs the crocodile on land. The tiger needs transitional terrain. The shark needs the open ocean. The rhinoceros and the elephant need solid ground. The hippopotamus needs its territorial waters. The final entry on this list has no such requirement. It is the only animal alive that could defeat a saltwater crocodile in the crocodile's own element, at any depth, at any time, without any environmental advantage at all. And the reason has nothing to do with size. Number 1. The thinking predator. In 2017, 5 great white sharks washed up dead along the coastline near Gansby, South Africa, a stretch of water known internationally as Shark Alley because of its historically dense great white population. When marine biologist Alison Towner at the Dyer Island Conservation Trust conducted necropsies on the carcasses, she found something that nobody in the field had anticipated. Each shark's torso had been opened with what could only be described as surgical precision. The livers, which in a great white can weigh close to 200 kilograms and contain dense concentrations of squalene, a high-energy lipid worth more calorically than almost any other organ in the marine food web, had been cleanly removed. Every other organ was left untouched. The sharks had not been savaged by a predator in a frenzy, they had been operated on. Towner published her findings in 2022 in the African Journal of Marine Science. The killers were a pair of male orcas, later designated port and starboard by researchers, due to their distinctive collapsed dorsal fins, leaning in opposite directions. Satellite tagging and acoustic monitoring confirmed that these two individuals had systematically hunted and killed at least 8 great white sharks over a 5-year period. The technique was consistent across every kill. The orcas would ram the shark's underside at speed, inducing tonic immobility, the same involuntary paralysis response that can be triggered in crocodilians by inversion. Once the shark was immobilized and drifting, the orcas would tear a precise opening in the abdominal wall, extract the liver, and leave the rest of the carcass untouched. That finding alone would place the orca on this list. But the detail that puts the orca in a category beyond every other animal here is not its size. Although adult male orcas reach 9 meters in length and weigh up to 9,000 kilograms, 9 times the mass of the largest saltwater crocodile ever verified. It is not its speed, although orcas sustain 56 kilometers per hour in the water, more than double the saltwater crocodile's maximum aquatic velocity. It is not even its bite force, which has never been directly measured under laboratory conditions, but which the orca demonstrates every time it cracks open the rib cage of a gray whale calf or tears through the cartilaginous skeleton of a great white. It is the intelligence. Orcas possess the second largest brain of any marine animal, behind only the sperm whale. Their neocortex, the region of the brain responsible for higher-order cognitive function, is exceptionally developed and densely folded, with a surface area that exceeds that of any primate, including humans. They exhibit cultural transmission, meaning they teach hunting techniques to their young through observation and practice, and different populations separated by ocean basins have developed entirely different predatory strategies tailored to their specific environments. The orcas of Patagonia beach themselves deliberately on gravel shores to catch sea lion pups, a technique that takes calves 2 to 3 years of practice before they can execute it without stranding permanently. The orcas of Norway use a method called carousel feeding, herding herring into a compressed ball using coordinated swimming patterns and bubble curtains, then stunning the fish with lateral tail slaps before consuming them in organized rotations. The orcas of the Antarctic create synchronized waves by swimming in formation toward ice floes, generating a surge that washes seals off the edge and into the water where the pod is waiting. Each of these behaviors was invented by a specific population, taught to the next generation through years of apprenticeship, and refined across decades. This is not instinct, it is culture. And culture, in the evolutionary sense, is technology. It is learned problem-solving that accumulates over generations, each cohort building on the innovations of the last. Hal Whitehead and Luke Rendell at the University of St. Andrews published extensive research on cetacean cultural transmission in their 2015 work, documenting that orca populations separated by entire oceans maintain hunting traditions so distinct that marine biologists classify them as culturally independent groups, despite belonging to the same species. A Patagonian beaching specialist placed in Norwegian waters would not know how to herd herring. The knowledge is not encoded in the genome, it lives in the community. Against a saltwater crocodile, the orca would bring every advantage simultaneously. In the open water, the orca is faster by a factor of 2. It is more maneuverable by every metric that matters in 3-dimensional aquatic combat. And it is vastly heavier. The largest saltwater crocodile ever verified was Lolong, captured in the Philippines in 2011, measuring 6.17 meters and weighing approximately 1,075 kilograms. An adult male orca outweighs Lolong by a factor of 8 to 9. The weight disparity is comparable to the difference between a crocodile and an African elephant on land. Except in the water, there is no ground to stand on, no bank to retreat to, and no terrain that limits the orca's approach angle. The crocodile's death roll requires gripping prey and generating enough rotational torque along the longitudinal axis to tear tissue. Against an orca, the death roll is physically non-functional. The crocodile cannot generate sufficient torque to rotate an animal 9 times its own mass. The jaws would clamp, the crocodile would initiate the spin, and nothing would happen. The orca would simply hang in the water while the crocodile exhausted its anaerobic energy reserves, trying to move something that refuses to move. And then the orca would respond. Orcas have been documented in the estuarine and coastal waters of northern Australia, the same habitat range as the saltwater crocodile. In 2014, a pod was observed in the shallow waters near Darwin Harbor, where saltwater crocodiles are among the densest populations on Earth. There are no confirmed cases of an orca killing a saltwater crocodile, because the crocodile does not represent a significant caloric target for an animal that routinely hunts great white sharks, gray whales, and blue whale calves. The orca would not hunt the crocodile for food. It would simply win if the encounter occurred, the same way you would win a physical contest against an animal, a ninth of your weight that tried to grab your arm. The biomechanical analysis leaves no room for ambiguity. Greater mass, greater speed, greater bite force, greater intelligence, greater maneuverability. A demonstrated, peer-reviewed history of hunting and killing apex predators with far more formidable natural defenses than the saltwater crocodile possesses. The great white shark has a more hydrodynamic body, faster burst speed, serrated cutting teeth, and countershading camouflage. It still ends up on a South African beach with its liver missing and the rest of its body untouched. A saltwater crocodile encountering an orcapod in coastal waters would face an animal that has already solved the problem of killing apex predators far more dangerous than itself. The orca would not need to invent a new strategy. It would simply apply one of the techniques it has already perfected, refined across generations, and passed down through a culture older than any human civilization. Every other animal on this list requires a narrow window of advantage, a specific terrain, a specific depth, a specific number of allies, a specific moment of vulnerability. The orca requires nothing. In the open ocean, in the shallows, in brackish estuarine water, alone or in a pod, at the surface or at depth, there is no realistic scenario in which the saltwater crocodile wins. The most devastating bite force ever measured in a living animal. Armor that has survived 200 million years of evolutionary pressure. A killing technique that has made the saltwater crocodile the dominant predator of every river, estuary, and coastal waterway it inhabits across Southeast Asia and Northern Australia. And none of it matters against an animal that thinks. The real question is not which animal can defeat a saltwater crocodile. It is what it reveals that the most ancient and physically dominant reptilian predator on Earth can be overcome, again and again, by intelligence, cooperation, and learned technique. Of the 10 animals in this video, which do you think poses the most decisive threat? Drop your answer in the comments. If you want to see more deep dives like this, subscribe now. The algorithm stops surfacing this channel to you if you do not, and the next video covers something far stranger than anything on this list. Click the video on the screen right now.